Hey everyone, it's Michael Goosebumps fan. Happy Friday, I hope you're doing well today. I had to wear a hat because like the old classic Goosebumps title said, I'm having a bad hair day. A really bad hair day. Back here, it just doesn't want to stay down. Anyway, I gotta get a haircut here soon. So, today is the day that I review the final Series 2000 book I have never read before. I've looked forward to this one for years. I've been doing the channel as of February 28th. It's going to be 4 years I've been doing these channel book review things here. And about 5 years since I've been back into Goosebumps, really heavily collecting everything I could. And it means a lot for you guys to be here, number one. Series 2000 is a very well-known series. A lot of people really like this. Some people consider this to be their favorite of all the different eras and series of Goosebumps out there. And this particular book is the final one that was released in the... I think in 2000, I believe it was 2000 on the dot. So for about 8 years, there were no Goosebumps books. Anything new, from what I understand, was not released until 2008, when Horrorland came out. And we all read Horrorland, and we all know how that went. It's not great. Going from Series 2000 to that after all those years, it ain't great. By this time, the TV show had been over. By this time, the original series, of course, had been over. Series 2000 was the inheritor of the original series mantle, if you will. Even though I think the classic series is a little bit better than Series 2000, but I like the darker nature of these books. The Tales to Give You Goosebumps books were over. The Give Yourself Goosebumps books were over. The TV books were over. Everything that could have been done was done by that point. And we needed breathing room for about 8 years because of what Harry Potter did to the popularity of Goosebumps. And rightfully so. Harry Potter's really, really good. Anyway, when it comes to this particular book, I've heard a lot of you beg me to read this book for like ever. And I made like a conscious decision to wait and make this the final Series 2000 book because of the cover of it, which really, really engages me, to the story idea. Just because of the title alone. Again, I don't read the back of the books, I just kind of jump in and read them like I've told you guys in the past. This one sounded super compelling. It just sounded like one that was going to be extremely dark compared to its other brethren in the Series 2000 books, or even its brethren in the whole franchise of Goosebumps. That final book that was released under the Goosebumps, I can't talk today. I am so sorry. I've tried to record this video once. I had to stop halfway through. It's like my brain just melted. Anyway, this is the final book of Goosebumps for a long time, under the Series 2000 brand especially. Number 25, Ghost in the Mirror. Look at that cover. I love that cover. It's so spooky, dude, with a hand coming out of the mirror. Ghost in the Mirror. What is this book about? Well, essentially, I am so tired. I had a really rough night of sleep last night, dude. I woke up like 5 times, dude, and I had to get up and walk around to try to get the cramp out of my leg a couple of times and then do other things and whatever. It was a rough night. Anyway, Ghost in the Mirror. I'm sorry to just throw that in when I'm about to cover the story, but I had to. That's what makes my reviews different. I throw a little bit of my personal problems into these. Who doesn't want to hear about that during a Goosebumps book review? Anyway, so, in Ghost in the Mirror, our main character is in a situation in his family where they've had some money struggles. Basically, the dad has not been able to find a job for roughly a year now, and the mom's really kind of at her wit's end trying to deal with the family and trying to deal with working and trying to maintain all the bills and whatever. And that's tough. That's really tough, and my heart goes out to anybody who's had to do that at all, ever, because that's scary. That's really scary, especially when your husband or wife can't find a job. That's brutal on a family, especially on the kids, too. And this is a great example of that, there's an older sister in here. She's the only other sibling in the story. And the older sister likes to scare our main character quite a bit. And he basically, one of the big things she makes fun of him over is how his bedroom furniture, his dressers, his chest of drawers, all that, basically, they're all baby furniture when he was a young kid, right? Because with the dad not having a job, they can't really afford to get him new furniture for the room. Well, they happen to be at a yard sale, the parents at least are at a yard sale, and they find all of this furniture for a really good deal. There's a chest of drawers, or a dresser, something like that, and a big old mirror. And they take it to the house, they replace all of his furniture in his bedroom with this new antique-ish like stuff. The mirror is huge, really huge, like almost to the ceiling type of thing. And when he is messing with that mirror, he happens to notice a note that falls out from the mirror, and he reads it. And it basically tells you, like, this mirror is cursed, If you bring it into your house, you're going to be cursed. Beware, that kind of thing. And when he and his friend are playing video games, his friend happens to, like, kind of keep staring over at the mirror across the room behind them. And he asks his friend, hey, what's going on? What's up with you? I think his name is Fred. Fred, like, what's wrong with you? And he swears up and down that he saw something in the mirror. And it kind of creeps him out. And I want to tell you this. Ghost in the Mirror has one of the best atmospheres of a Goosebumps book out there. For a lot of the comments that many of you have probably seen over the years where people have asked me to read this book and review this book, you've probably heard people talk about the atmosphere of it. I'm going to tell you, pretty much from beginning to end, it's pretty ruthless when it comes to atmosphere, when it comes to the eeriness of the story, the way it's written. I think it's one of Stein's creepiest books ever written. But do I put it on like the parallel of like Ghost Camp, Haunted Mask 2, all the stuff that I love, that I talk about all the time? Not really, but it's effective in the sense of, it reminds me a lot of Oculus. If you've seen the movie Oculus, it reminds me a lot of that, but not in the same way of the storytelling and the way they focus on the mirror in these two different stories. Very different, very different. As a matter of fact, one of the most interesting things about this review for me that I have to tell you up front, a lot of you were really excited for me to review Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls, which is the previous, next to last Series 2000 book I reviewed for the channel, and I wasn't into it at all. Like, I really didn't like it. It was kind of a body-hopping story. I'm not a fan of things like that. Or like, you know, the Friday the 13th films, you have the one called Jason Goes to Hell, which is that same concept. I hate that. I think it's awful. I think it's so stupid. It's been overdone, kind of like the Shrinking Man stories. Ghost in the Mirror has a lot in common with that concept from Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls. And if I had to say anything, as much as I like the setup for that book, I think this is a better version of that kind of story. As it goes along, it's not identical. It's not identical with a body-hopping story, but it's similar enough that I think it's worth bringing up. My boy Spongy put down in the comment section of the previous review that he thought I would really love maybe the first half of this with that urban legend feel, haunted mirror, haunted object type of thing. And I want to say this, I'm actually surprised that I liked more than that. I actually think that I loved about 80% of the book. I do think there's maybe one or two moments where it gets a little silly. Not as chaotic and goofy as Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls got, but I do think this book has its moments where it gets a little much. But overall, I think the overall book, atmosphere, is pretty thick the entire time. There are moments that I truly think creep me out, put a little chill down my spine, like I said, and I think it's really effective for that. I don't really have a whole lot to say about Ghost in the Mirror, but I don't want to undersell the book. I think it's really solid. A really, really solid read. A really spooky read. It has a lot going for it. It has so much to offer. Again, especially in the atmosphere department. There are some great scares. There's a little bit of gore. I don't know if I mentioned that in this recording or in the previous one, but there's a little bit of gore to this book, which kind of surprised me. And the Ghost in the Mirror is very interesting, is all I'm going to say. As similar as it is to Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls, it's a little bit different. It's a spin on a ghost haunted object story type of thing that I very much appreciated. I really, really liked what I saw here, what I read here, what I experienced here. Because again, the atmosphere is more here than in most books, and I would say that that's more of an experience than anything. There's a lot to be said about Ghost in the Mirror. If we got into spoilers, there would be so much to say. It'd be like an hour-long video because of all the things I'd have to ramble on about. But overall, I think it's a really good read. I think it's definitely a recommendation for me personally, and I do think it's much, much, much better than Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls in my personal taste, my personal opinion. If you like the urban legend type of thing or the haunted object types of stories from Goosebumps, this is right up your alley. This is a big one that I'd recommend to you guys to collect or to read or whatever you want to do with it. If you happen to own it, you've never touched it, you're missing out. I really think you're missing out a lot. And I'm glad I saved this one to be one of the last Series 2000 books I ever read because of how strong of a read it is. To be kind of a standalone book that doesn't attach itself to like a Dummies series or a Haunted Mask series, it's a really strong standalone book. And to be the final book for like 8 years, this is one crazy way to end the series. If this was the end of Goosebumps and this was the final book ever written, ever, this would be quite a way to go with the story, I think. But overall, when it comes to Goosebumps Series 2000, Ghost in the Mirror, this is a great read. like I said, I have my problems with it. I do think there's a few nitpicks of myself, for myself, when it comes to the actual story being a little too over the top a couple of times. But I do think it really, really, really lands a lot of its twists, a lot of the things it's trying to do, especially the atmosphere, once again. I think it really, really gets that, and it does it well. Really, really well most of the time. Again, 80 or 90% of the book I think I really love. Not like, love. If I had to rate Ghost in the Mirror on a 5-star basis, this is going to seem a little low. It's going to seem a little low as a rating, but I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 stars. I do really, really, really love a lot of it, but I don't think it really gets like into my top tiers. Maybe in my top 10 of Series 2000 for sure, I would say. But I haven't really finalized my ranking video yet. I'm going to probably record that today in a little while. But I don't know if I'll upload it today. I'm going to try, but we'll see what happens before I have to go to work. Something might pop up, I don't know. But for the time being, though, I give it a 3 out of 5 stars. Very good experience with this book, I would say. I had a good time. I really recommend it if you haven't read it before. It's definitely different than a lot of Goosebumps books that you've probably read. If you're in this community, if you've been reading Goosebumps, or if you grew up reading Goosebumps, this is something you haven't really seen a whole lot of, in my personal opinion. With all that being said, though, what did you guys think of Goosebumps Series 2000, number 25, the final one for like 8 years? Ghost in the Mirror, did you love it? Did you hate it? Put your thoughts and comments down below. I would love to hear what you all have to say. I'm sorry if you feel like I rated it too low. I feel like I'm going to get some hate on that, but I do think that it's pretty close to a 4. It's pretty close, but I don't think it entirely gets there for me in my personal taste. But I do think this is much, much better, and a better version of the kind of Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls type of storytelling. But overall, I loved it. I really recommend a lot of it to you. Not all of it, but a lot of it. You know, but the book comes the way it comes, you know. It's also about 110 pages, too, by the way. It's not a very long read. It flies by fairly quickly. I enjoyed it a lot. I really recommend it to you guys if you haven't read it before, as I said. And with all that being said, though, have you guys read this one? Please put your thoughts and comments down below again. That's it. We're done with the Series 2000 books. I would love to hear your thoughts before we go into the ranking videos here soon. Of course, the cover rankings I'll be doing next week. This week I have basically just, possibly today, I'll be recording the review for the actual story content, worst to best, you know? I'm going to try to do that before I go to work. I don't have one particular original cover, which is Attack of the Graveyard Ghouls. I have it on order. It's coming in the mail next week, I assume, God willing. And when that gets here, I will record that cover ranking video for the original Series 2000 covers. None of the reissues will be in that cover, just so you know. Or in that video, I mean. Anyway, it's Friday. I'm so ready for the weekend, dude. I had a rough night of sleep, like I said. And I'm ready for relaxation, big time. Anyway, hope you guys have a good weekend. Thank you for watching, guys. God bless you all, and goodbye.